Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. And today we are featuring from McFarlane Toys in their DC Multiverse line, we have Wonder Woman. As she appears in Justice League Endless Winter. This figure is piece number 1 of 4 for the Build-A-Figure of the Frost King. Excellent looking figure. It's a much different take on Wonder Woman. To be honest, I mentioned this before in my review of some of the other Endless Winter action figures. Justice League Endless Winter was a comic book series, and it came out shortly after I stopped reading Justice League. So I'm not too familiar with this version of Wonder Woman. So I couldn't say whether or not how accurate this is to the comic book. Here is the Frost King once put together, and like I mentioned, there's 4 figures you need to collect to build them up. We have Wonder Woman, we have Endless Winter Batman, we have the second release of the John Stewart Green Lantern, and then we have Black Adam. The figure also includes a display stand and a trading card. Okay, so first impressions of Endless Winter Wonder Woman while she's still in the tray. This looks fantastic. There's something about the colors, though. I kind of feel like it could benefit from more paint application. It seems like, they tried to stick to maybe just like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 colors. For example, there's like this little belt here holding her lasso. It's the same color as the molded plastic. This would have been benefited if they actually colored it to bring out the detail. Likewise, even though I do like the shade of blue, I don't think it does a good job of bringing out the texture. But, that's just a personal preference. I do think this is really well done. I love what I'm seeing here with the head sculpt. I think that looks great. And then here's her sword. The sword kind of looks like a smaller version of Conan the Barbarian's sword. There's something about the hilt that kind of reminds me of Conan's sword. It's just missing like the bone skull on the top. But it's nicely done. You can see the detail. There has the wraps on the handle. They're kind of like almost like the semblance of a W right here. So, nice little accessory. Alright, so let's get started. Alright. I'm really excited to check this out because as soon as I took it out of the box, the first thing that it kind of reminded me of is like Vikings. If you're a big fan of like the Vikings TV show, or if you're just a fan of Vikings in general, I think this might be your jam. It's a great looking figure, a really interesting interpretation of Wonder Woman in kind of like this almost like Norse Viking-like outfit. Like if Wonder Woman was to marry Thor, I think this is what she'd wear. It kind of like feels like the comic book version of Valkyrie in Marvel Comics. And for me also, it kind of reminds me of my the character I'm playing in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I have a costume that's kind of decked out similar to like this for my avatar in Assassin's Creed. So yeah, I'm digging this a lot. It's a really fun take on the character. I love this furry cape that she's wearing. It's really well sculpted, as you can see. It almost looks like a bear hide. One thing I've noticed too, I'm kind of divided on this. This is the second time I've seen this. I've seen this before previously, I think with the Court of Owls Talon figure. So the sheath for the sword, it bothers me that it's split down the middle like that. I don't know why they couldn't enclose the sheath completely. So then when you put the sword in, you can still see some of it there. It's kind of unsightly in my opinion. So I don't know why they feel the need to open up the sheath like that, unless it's to make the sword easily accessible, But there's the complete look with the sword in the sheath. Let's take a look at the details up close. First off, amazing head sculpt. I love the tiara / headdress on her. It's very Wonder Woman, but at the same time, it's very Valkyrie-like. If Wonder Woman was going to marry Thor, this is how I kind of envision her. Again, I love this cape that they're using with kind of like the fur hide. Maybe she killed a bear or scalped a frost giant, for this thing. It's pretty cool. And if you're like a customizer, I think this would be a great piece to use on a custom figure. If you want to do like a barbarian or a Viking, this is really cool. It's kind of a, it's not super thick, but at the same time, it's not soft either. It's a very I don't know, it's not rigid, but there's not a whole lot of give to this. As you can see here, it's kind of hard to flex and bend. I do like the fact that it's a neutral cape, and when I say neutral, it's just kind of flowing downward. It's not like flowing in the wind, which makes sense because this looks very heavy. This looks like something that conveys, warmth, especially in, the theme of Endless Winter. Her costume design, it really echoes traditional Diana in certain areas. Like, for example, the corset here, it really looks like it's just Wonder Woman's normal outfit on top of like a thermal bodysuit, if I had to describe it like that. You still have the eagle on the chest right there. Here's her body armor. Kind of has, the stripe padding. Here's her belt buckle. You have the W on the skirt piece. Here's her lasso of truth, and it's a separate piece, but it doesn't come off. It's glued onto the skirt. The shade of blue for the bodysuits, I don't know, I think, unless it's being accurate to the comic book, I kind of feel like it would have been better if they used maybe like a darker shade of blue. But at the same time, if they're trying to convey like ice and snow, I think this lighter shade of blue is appropriate. It's just kind of not my cup of tea. One thing to be aware of also is that as I'm recording this video, I'm looking at off to the side at my computer screen, and the red on the costume looks a lot richer and deeper on video than it does in person. If you were to handle this in person, the red is a little bit more on the magenta side. It's not as rich as a red as it looks on the video. So just a word on that. She has thigh-high boots that kind of cut at the knees where it's like with gold armor. Nice sculpting here on the boots also. You have some cuts and panels. Thankfully, she doesn't have high-heeled boots. She just has thick soles. It seems like there's a lot of area here if you're a customizer where you can enhance this figure with, the addition of more paint. For example, there's the trim on her gloves. I really feel like if you want to go that extra distance, you could paint the trim pieces with gold. You could paint the furry pieces with either brown or gray or even white to bring out the details even more. Likewise, you know, the skirt could probably benefit with some painting along the furry trim here, and also maybe with either like dry brushing or applying a wash to bring out these details. You know, the skirt piece here could benefit from some gold trim. So it feels a little bit bare in some areas. You know, it definitely feels like it could benefit with the addition of more paint. Just because I kind of feel like this is a really well sculpted figure and really well designed, but I kind of feel like it's just missing something in terms of the paint application. You know, if you look here, clearly this is a furry piece. It shouldn't be red. You know, it should either be like white or brown to coincide with this. In terms of articulation, Wonder Woman's head rotates, and this kind of gets in the way a little bit. It's not flexible. I believe it's glued onto her head, I think. So her head rotates left and right. Does she look down? Doesn't look down. Does she look up? Doesn't look up. And my hands, just to let you know, they're a mess. I've been painting and washing them a lot, so they're just really dry. Her arms rotate. They go out. Nice range of motion with the ball-socketed butterfly joint. Double pinned elbows. Wrist articulation, very stock, very standard. Does she have a cut at the waist? Oh, what's interesting here is instead of having a cut beneath the breast line on the armor, it's actually, if you look here, it's actually separate from right there. So there is a break, but it's a little bit higher than usual. And I don't know what the benefit of that is, because it doesn't really allow for extra motion, unless this is how the figure is assembled. So it doesn't rotate or twist up here. It's just weird, because you can kind of feel this piece here is a body sleeve, but then there's that break right there. And the sheath does come off, I guess. Here's the peg, and then there's a socket in the back. And this is what I was talking about earlier with the sheath. It bothers me how it's cut down the middle like this. I don't understand why they can't just, you know, encase the sword completely. It looks weird. Does she swivel at the waist? No. Yeah, it's weird. Look, you know, I'm trying to swivel this figure at the waist, but then when I do look up here, it kind of like does this. When I try rotating her, it breaks this off. So I don't know what's going on there. Now, all the articulation in her torso seems very limited, very locked in because of the body sleeve. Her legs kick up. They kick out. Everything is just hindered. She has too much going on with all this stuff that's going to like prevent you from getting like, you know, really extreme poses, you know, within the torso and below the waist. Double pinned knees, ankle articulation. All right, so visually, I think this character is like a 10. I think it's a perfect, you know, visually. I think it looks amazing. It falls a little bit short in terms of it could do with more paint. So I think I'm a little bit, I don't know, a little too generous. You know, realistically, I think visually, then, you know, with that being said, maybe an 8.5 to a 9, because, you know, visually, I think it could do with more paint in some of these areas. The articulation, though, is what really hurts this figure, especially around the torso and below the waist, you know, with the skirt and all this. You know, in terms of articulation, unfortunately, you know, for me, it's about like a 6 to a 7. You know, it feels kind of inexcusable that you can't move her around too much in this part of the body. Like, if you want to get her in a swinging pose, good luck with that, you know, because nothing here wants to rotate, or at least on my figure. So I don't really know what's going on. And it's weird how this is broken up there. Not too keen on the sheath either. But I do think it's worth the purchase because it's such a unique take on Wonder Woman. You know, she looks fantastic, but the articulation just kind of hurts it. So, you know, it's kind of like your decision. You know, if you're a Wonder Woman completionist and you need all things Wonder Woman, this is a great buy. The one thing I do like about this figure is, I've mentioned this in some videos before, that, You know, growing up in the 80s and 90s, especially like with Hasbro and Kenner and, you know, all things related Batman, we'd always get different versions of Batman instead of just the plain stock version of Batman. You know, we'd get the plain Batman, but then you'd get like Arctic Attack Batman, Jungle Camo Batman, and very rarely would we get variations on the female superheroes. You know, chances are if we got a Wonder Woman figure, it was just plain old Wonder Woman. The one thing I like with the McFarlane line is that they're really going across the board and taking, you know, different versions of the characters that we see in the comic books. And for me, it's very refreshing to see Wonder Woman in a much different outfit. You know, it has a gimmick, you know, it's winter themed. You know, she almost looks like a Viking or a Valkyrie. So in that sense, I think this is it makes for a very unique character and definitely an eye-catching one if it was on your shelf. So I do recommend it in that regard, you know, but if you're looking for something that's super articulated, you know, it might disappoint you. Mostly because of the body sleeve and the articulation centered around the torso and below the waist. It just feels a little bit limited because of all this, you know, the thick cape and the skirts and whatnot. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.